Hello, I'm Lisa, a pediatric physiotherapist for babies and toddlers. I've seen firsthand how small, everyday habits in modern parenting can lead to big issues for our babies. In this podcast, I'm going to show you how to prevent those issues, treat them if necessary, and restore the joy to parenting. Hello, and welcome back to the Best for Baby podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Rogers-Sargent, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. I'd like to introduce you to Emma Inglefield from By Your Side Doula. And as it's in the name, Emma's obviously a doula, and I'm really excited to have you here today, Emma, to tell us a little bit more about what being a doula is, but also because you've had a wealth of experience professionally. Emma's had her company By Your Side Doula for nearly 20 years now. But not only that, she's an expert, not only professionally, but also through experience, because Emma has 3 daughters of her own. So it sounds like, Emma, you really are an expert in the space of babies and motherhood. So Emma, please, can you tell us, first of all, exactly what is a doula and how did you end up becoming one?
Well, so a doula is somebody that helps women, their partners, prepare for pregnancy and birth antenatally. So there's a variety of different ways that people tend to do that. So it could be in person or virtually is a lot more common as well these days. And it's going through things with them such as what to expect and making yourself the centre of it all. How do you feel going through this journey? What feels right for you? And talking through all the different scenarios and different things so that you can get to know what feels right for you and which way you want to go with it, really. But also then discussing things like if it doesn't go to plan on the first way that you've got in your head, then, being open to all the other options so that you feel in control and that your wishes are being met along the way, but also to help prepare the partner as well, so that they're not just sat there like a deer caught in the headlights, as they often are, and wish they were involved more, looking back on hindsight. So it's about preparation. It's about actually being there with them at the birth, labour and birth itself, holding their hand, reassuring them, reminding them, that type of thing, but also helping out postnatally as well. So when they're at home with baby, they can have that reassurance that everything's okay, this is normal, you're doing great, and just helping them around the house and things like that as well. So there's a big scope of what's involved with becoming a doula. And I started my journey back in 2007. I was due to have my second baby. My first baby, I was told I wasn't allowed a home birth. I had to have a hospital birth. And I didn't think to question it. I thought that I had to do as I was told. So second time round, because first time round it all went really well. I naturally trusted myself. I naturally trusted my instincts and really became in tune with myself during all of my pregnancies and labours. So for me, it was the most normal and natural thing to be doing in the world. So second time round, I wanted a home birth. And I'd learnt a lot more by that point, and nobody was going to tell me no. I was going to try for this home birth, or at least to labour at home. And that's what we did. And the midwife was really supportive this time. Instead of saying the line that I heard the first time, oh, you're not allowed for a first baby, you have to go to hospital. Second time round, the midwife said, oh, I've got a lovely home birth meeting you can go to. It's run by an independent midwife and a doula. And I thought, what on earth's a doula? I'd never heard that word before in my life. So when I met her, when she explained what she did, I was like, oh my gosh, that is a bit of me. I need to do this. This sounds absolutely amazing, to be able to support and empower women to trust themselves and trust that process instead of being coerced and told that you can't do certain things. It was just what I knew I needed to do at some point in my life. And then I was made redundant just as I was about to go back to work. I did my week going back to work, and then the company went into liquidation. And I just thought, that's it. This is it. This is my time. So I went and did the training, and the rest is history. Lots of families supported later. So, yeah.
Gosh. And there were a few things that you said that I wanted to ask you about, but just saying you wanted to become a doula because the thought of empowering women to make the choices.
Yeah.
I think it's such a big thing. And certainly with me, when I had my daughter as well, you trust obviously the medical professionals because you think, they know more than me. And we are, I don't know, I find like we kind of are told not to follow our instincts so much with childbirth. Childbirth has come so far from what it used to be. And everything goes against our instincts. And you just do it, you just follow it.
Yeah.
And I think it's so hard being on that side of the cares to challenge that and to question that. And I think obviously along with the work you do, just the fact that you're almost like an advocate and you're speaking for the mum who's about to have a baby. And it just, first of all, it makes her feel like she doesn't have to, do it on her own, or she doesn't have to challenge the system. And it probably gives her a lot of confidence to believe in what she thinks. So how do people find you? Because obviously I didn't have a doula, and I had an elective cesarean section. So I wish I could have had a doula to speak to beforehand and maybe take me through a birthing process I didn't think I would be able to go through. So yeah, how do they find you?
So there's quite a few different directories out there. So, like, for example, I'm listed on the Doula UK directory, and Nurturing Birth directory, on the My Bump to Baby business directory. So there's lots of different things out there, but just Googling, just local doulas to you. Although virtually, of course, they don't need to be local either anymore. I mean, some people really want that in-person support, but other people, you still feel that nurturing connection virtually. So, it doesn't have to necessarily be local. So I think the first port of call is just to pop in a Google search. There's also, like, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. So there's different approaches to finding doulas online, definitely.
I think the difficult thing is that you almost have to know you want a doula to go and then look for a doula. Nobody tells you that when you go for your antenatal appointments, or even when you're doing NCT. I did NCT. Nobody kind of said, oh, you are very anxious about childbirth. Why don't you have a doula? Why don't you find yourself a doula?
Yeah.
I think there's very little awareness about it.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating, not only for us as doulas, but also for women, especially after they've had a traumatic experience. If they hear about it afterwards,
Yes.
it's such a shame, because, not blowing my own trumpet or the trumpet of other doulas, but we do an amazing job. We have a wonderful role, and it is all tailored around the client. It's not about what we think, what we want. It's about really holding the hand of the person to sometimes even unravel and get them to understand what it is they actually want, because there's so many things out there that make people worry about, oh, what if this, what if that? And actually, it really is about starting off to have those conversations to understand what it is that is important to you, or what you're fearful of. And a lot of it is the fear of the unknown, and how it's portrayed on TV programs that we see, in the films, that type of thing. We have this fear, and people like to share their stories, and people love it, especially, I think, if they've got a story to tell that is, quite scary.
Right. Yeah.
And it's what sits with you then, isn't it? It's what stays. So, it is frustrating that it isn't mentioned in antenatal sessions, in hospitals and things like that. But sometimes there's a bit of a love and hate it seems, and there shouldn't be, around the midwives versus the doulas, because we're all there to do the same thing. And, you know, we all want to be with woman and get the best outcome, especially mentally for the woman. It's absolutely fine if a birth is an elective section, if that is truly what is wanted, and they leave that feeling that that's the best thing for them. They've made that decision based on all the right reasons. That's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you are doing the face-to-face sessions, does that mean when the mum goes into labor, you go with her to the hospital?
Yeah, would do. So whether it's a hospital birth, a home birth, whenever they feel they need me to go around, they give me a call. We've probably been talking for the previous 2 days if she's feeling that she's having a few niggles and things like that. So as soon as they feel that they need that extra support, it might be that I'd go to the house before we then all go to hospital together. Or it might be that I meet them at the hospital. So whatever feels better for them. Sometimes they need a little bit of calming reassurance.
Yes.
Just, it might even be a phone call that they need before we make that decision to go in
And I
to
can
the
imagine
hospital.
for a first-time mum going into the early stages of labor, you know, often you go to hospital and then they send you home and you think,
Yeah,
oh, I don't want to go to hospital, they're going to send me home. Just to have a calm, reassuring voice to help you kind of triage it and decide, you know,
yeah,
the time, or, you know, obviously if it's at home, I assume you'll have come or you'll know when to come for them.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely. And it can be things like getting the birth pool ready for them and helping them get things set up and things like that. So, woman and her partner can just be getting on with it and just slowly getting things, you know, going and keeping the oxytocin flowing and that type of thing. So, yeah, it's
gosh.
practical things as well as emotional support as well.
And I can imagine, particularly in a home setting, um, someone like you being there, you know, just gives that calming effect and providing those practical strategies to help them stay calm. For me, so I worked a lot with children with cerebral palsy. That happens obviously as a result of birth trauma. And I'd done that for many years and then had my baby. And so I was terrified of things going wrong.
Yeah,
And it was just anxiety that made me make that decision, and I had no one to talk me through it. And certainly in the antenatal classes they spoke about, you know, staying calm, because that makes labor progress. As soon as you get stressed, your hormone levels fluctuate, you know, you get the cortisol, which stops the oxytocin, and that halts labor. And I just thought, well, that's how I'm going to be, and then I'm going to assume something's gone wrong, or it's going to make me at more risk of something going wrong.
yeah.
So what are your kind of calming strategies or your top tips for during that period where people are starting, you know, when it gets scary and stressful?
Yeah, because I mean, it's all very well telling someone to stay calm and to relax, but it's easier said than done in the moment, isn't it? Especially, I think, especially if you haven't had the preparation beforehand. I think sometimes, well, the preparation part is key as far as I'm concerned. So it's not just being told to relax, it's knowing the reasons why you should relax. So like if somebody's got their shoulders up, then they're tense. So it's sometimes one of the tips is just to put the hands on the lady's shoulders. If you've spoken about that leading up to birth in the preparation and explains that if your shoulders are tense, then you're tense in your cervix.
Mm,
If your shoulders are tense, then you're not relaxing. So the oxytocin isn't going to be flowing as well. So just doing that on the shoulders without any words can be enough to then trigger that remembering that we've done antenatally. Oh, yes, this is why I need to relax. I don't want to be fighting against my uterus and my cervix. So I shall now take a breath out and relax. Breathing together. So the partner or myself doing that deep breathing to help so that they then mimic and go in tune with the breathing can really be helpful. Having some music on in the background that they perhaps have listened to help them relax during labour, perhaps during hypnobirthing, that's very popular to do the hypnobirthing. Having that calm relaxation music, lower lighting so that you haven't got the bright lights. And even in a hospital setting, that is doable. Sometimes people think that because you're in their environment, you have to keep everything as it is, but you can still have music on, you can still lower the lighting and all these things. And even to get the oxytocin flowing, cuddles with your partner, kisses with your partner, all that type of thing. You know, it really helps to just bring that calm and relaxation. But a lot of people say that they were anxious before, but as soon as I walk through the door, they tend to just calm right down. And that's the same with all doulas that I speak to. You know, they're just knowing that someone's there who's got their back, who's gone through the journey with them. They've got that continuity with, they've got that trust built up with. Just having that familiar face walk through the door or being on the other end of the phone can make all the difference. It really can.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, you've just described everything that does not sound like a hospital situation at all. So that's amazing to be able to create that even if you are in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important, you know, you have it on your birth preference list or birth plan that you want that quiet atmosphere and things like that. You know, you can hire the bed up to whatever setting you want to, so you can lean over it as opposed to automatically lying on it on your back.
Gosh.
You know, those sorts of things. So just small tweaks.
Those are small tweaks, but they're the small tweaks of someone who knows about them. You know, I worked in hospitals for years, so I knew beds go up and down, but it's not something I would have thought to put in. That's incredible. That's, as you say, the little tweaks that make such a big difference.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can make it your own. I had quite an extensive birth plan for a cesarean section.
Yeah.
Because I wanted things a certain way. But, you know, I didn't think about the lighting. I didn't think about music being calm. I mean, they did play music, but it wasn't my music. I didn't think of any of that.
Yeah.
And I think if you've heard it all before, so like your pre-visits, your pre-discussions with the mum, that obviously, as you say, it just triggers those memories and then they know they're prepared, they're ready for all of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's amazing.
And we tend to go over it quite a lot, so then it becomes more of like a muscle memory. It's more of something that they will automatically do or remember once that's been reminded to them, and it's triggered that sense of calm.
And I suppose that's also why it's triggered when they see you or hear your voice. It takes them back to that calm place of understanding. And also you have a lovely calm voice, so I'm sure that's helpful. My voice would not be calming in a labour room at all.
It's funny, I had a previous client. You become friends and family, extended family with people that you work with the majority of the time, and it's lovely. And I had a phone call with one of my moms the other day, and her daughter, I doulaed for her 3 times. The first time, her daughter is now coming up for 17, and she rang me up the other day, and she was a bit flustered on the start of the call, and she said, "You know what?" She said, "Just speaking to you, even after all this time," she said, "I just feel so much calmer and relaxed." She said, "I just need to do this more often." She said, just to
Oh wow.
I said, "Oh, that's lovely."
That's amazing. You can offer it as like an extended skill session. We're going back to work, just phone Emma and call. Sure. And you mentioned, you know, a lovely tip you gave about the cuddling and kissing your partner to get the oxytocin flowing. Do you do joint sessions with both parents? Do you have a separate session for the partners expecting?
I can do if that's what they like, but I really try and encourage it together. But then I always say, if you've got anything that's, you know, you want to speak to me about privately, you're more than welcome to. So if they've got something that they're really worried about that they might feel embarrassed to talk about in front of their partner, because sometimes that does happen. It's like they're worried about something that we would see as being quite a small thing, but to them it's massive. It's like they just feel as they don't want to let their partner down or whatnot, or if they feel as though they're not doing the right thing, then sometimes they will ask for just a quick conversation, just to help ease their mind. But usually it's more of a together thing. And I always encourage that the partner joins in on the antenatal sessions, because it's very much about the woman and what she wants and how she is going to feel and how they can support that. It's not about them trying to fix anything or trying to get involved in the same way that it will change her mind or make decisions for her. They really need to open up to the fact that this is, although it's your journey together as a couple and your part in this is really important, it is about her getting in tune and knowing her body so well that she knows if something doesn't feel quite right, or this is the best way to support this, or, you know, there might be times where she goes mad and swears at you or swears at the maternity staff or whatever, but you can't take any of that personally. It's things like that just to make them aware of beforehand. But I think it's really important to get that partner involved, because it's their journey too. There's been times where you see the partner just not knowing what to do. They're sat in the corner of a room, or you've had conversations with men afterwards. They think they just felt helpless. They had no clue what to do. They struggle to perceive what the pain is during childbirth and things like that. Whereas the woman might be moaning and screaming, but that's just her being vocal, not necessarily that she's finding it that excruciating that she can't handle it. It's just the vocal side coming out. So for them to understand the birth process and what's happening to her body and how they can support it, I think is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I suppose that's also the person they love, so much, going through what they perceive to be this excruciating agony that
Yeah,
would be really hard for them to handle.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and to be prepared for that, I think, and to understand what it all
Yeah,
means.
yeah, definitely. And understanding the different processes that might occur during labour. Like, I remember being with one couple and she had an episiotomy. We'd had a discussion about it before she made the decision. She was more than happy to go down that route because it was taking a long time. So she weighed up all the pros and cons. But I hadn't thought before this was in the early days, I hadn't thought about preparing the partner for what that may look like. And he was in complete shock seeing his partner be cut, because it isn't a nice thing to witness at all, in hindsight. And that's why then I prepare more for that. It's a learning curve for every birth for doulas as well. To see that actually happen to the one you love the most. He nearly fainted. We had to have a conversation afterwards because he was so traumatized by that, to help him unpick what had happened. And although the woman was absolutely fine, it was him that came out traumatized from that one. So again, having a doula afterwards to talk through anything and debrief about the birth process and what they've seen, that also makes a massive difference.
Yeah, yeah. Is that part of your training, that traumatic support counselling?
It is, yeah. I mean, I've done some counselling courses myself anyway, so I've done that as a separate thing, but they do touch on that. Different doula courses do touch on that sort of thing, but I've done personal ones from that. So it's definitely really important. And even before, if somebody's had a traumatic time, perhaps first time round, and they didn't have a doula and now they're having a doula, I think sometimes it's really important to unpick that trauma before going forward. If they're happy to talk about it, but sometimes keeping things locked in can really have an effect moving forward with the subsequent births. So yeah,
I'm sure. I had one baby. I hadn't gone through a bad experience personally, but it was just other people's stories, people I had worked with, and that was enough to create, a paranoia, terrible
Yeah.
fear. I never thought to try and unpack that first. I just thought, oh, well, that's me done. I'm not going to be able to go that route. But more the partner's experience. I've never, before this conversation, actually thought about a partner observing their partner going through childbirth and certainly an episiotomy, which I've watched an episiotomy take place as well. It is massively traumatic.
Yeah.
And again, not so much for the mother, because I think they do it in the height of a contraction. She's not observing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not as traumatic for her as certainly her partner watching. And I just think about my husband, if he had to watch something like that, I think it's massively traumatic, and nobody speaks about this. Nobody
No.
covers that. We went to antenatal, and all they really said for the dads was make sure you pack snacks because you could be in hospital for a long time. And
Yeah.
all the mums, we got a bit cross when we said, well, what about us? Who cares about that?
Yeah.
But we didn't, yeah, nobody thought of that.
Yeah.
And even though as women, we're prepared for the fact that labor is brutal. I think there should be more awareness on, and it's amazing your service provides that and helps that, because I think that can stay locked in, and then again in subsequent births, dad has to fear all of that and go through all of that again, or partner goes
Yeah.
through that again. Yeah.
Yeah. And so much so that I know people that have not gone down the route of doing much preparation, and the famous saying, "I'll just go with the flow," which really, because that's not your flow. You're not going with your flow at all. You're going with a hospital protocol flow, if you haven't prepared. And so much so that the trauma that they've suffered, even if they like, oh, I want 2 or 3 children, they will only have one, because they will not put themselves through that again. Whereas I was lucky enough to the first birth I ever witnessed as a doula. It was actually working alongside the doula I met when I first went to that home birth meeting, and we became quite good friends. And she asked her family if I could shadow her and support them, just to witness a birth and see if it was something that I definitely wanted to go down that route. And I trusted the birth process anyway, but if I didn't, anyone watching this woman give birth would change. I've gone goosebumpy just thinking about it now. She would change anybody's mind about the birth process. Her and her partner were the most gorgeous team. It was a home birth. Their little girl was in bed, fast asleep, and she'd done hypnobirthing, and they were swaying together, just rocking around the room. The room was quiet, it was low lit, and she was not making a noise. She was just, you wouldn't have been able to tell that she was in labour. She just looked so serene and gorgeous. And then when it came to the stage of pushing, she said, oh, I feel a bit sick. We got her something. She was sick. And then the next we know, she's just breathed. When people say that the baby was breathed out, it's the hypnobirthing J breath.
Yes.
She did. No sound. She just calmly breathed this baby out within a few contractions, picked the baby up herself, and lay down on the bed. And honestly,
Incredible.
it was the most amazing experience I've ever witnessed. This woman was incredible. She was like, I just looked at her and thought, what a goddess, and that is how birth can be. I mean, I make a noise when I labour and birth, but I feel so empowered when I'm giving birth. But that feeling can be from any birth scenario, but it's just to prove a point that as long as you prepare, of course, sometimes there are medical things that do get in the way, and help and support is needed and it's life-saving, but we've gone too far that way now. We don't trust enough, and that, to me, I think that's what we should be seeing on TV.
Yeah.
For
Gosh,
our
that's
future
incredible.
children. It was absolutely incredible.
Because I mean, you look at Call the Midwife, and they almost documented in the show that the change from home births to everyone having to be in a hospital, lying flat
Yeah.
on their backs, and it is so unnatural,
Yeah.
and over medicalized.
Yeah.
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 So, what is like the split roughly of what you see? Do you do a lot of home births, hospital births, water births?
It's mainly home births. It
Oh,
is mainly home births. I would say it's probably about an 80-20 split that is a home or a planned home birth. Sometimes there's transfers in from home to hospital. But
you
I
go
always
with
say
them
to
if
people,
that happens.
sorry?
You then go with them if that happens.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I can go with them. I'd follow on in the car if it was an ambulance journey, and then meet them there. But I always say to people, if they're unsure about where they want to give birth, then they can always plan for a home birth and change their mind. You know, labouring at home is just as lovely as going to hospitals too early, but you know, labouring at home and going into hospital at the last minute, or labouring at home and then think, actually, I'm really comfortable here,
Mm.
I'll stay, you know, that type of thing. Water births, if people are really adamant on a water birth, then it's probably worth thinking of a home birth, because a lot of the time the pool might not be available at the hospital,
Okay.
that type of thing. So, but yeah, I've seen a lot of water births as well. That's lovely, you know.
So, from you say about 80% is home births, do you think over the 20 years you've been doing this, there's an increased awareness of us trying to go back to how it was more natural? Do you think more people are trying for home births rather than making it so medical?
I think they are. I think they find it difficult. I think they're up against a broken system that tries to sway. You know, there's home birth there's birth-led units, but they're very rarely open or short-staffed. There's not so many home birth teams now within the hospitals, so there's that worry of not having anyone to come out to you. So I think, yeah, there's more need, like want for home birth, but there's also, because I think because of the system and how broken it is, there's a lot more free births as well.
Free birth?
So a free birth is where they just don't have any medical staff at all. They don't let the maternity system know that they're,
Oh,
yeah, and there's a it's a bit of a grey area really, because if a woman has done her research and she really wants to go down that route, then it's her right to choose. Some doulas will not feel comfortable supporting that because they're not medically trained. They can't like take the role of a midwife if they're in that scenario. And then it would be a case of ringing an ambulance if anything were to happen. But there's so many successful free births out there.
really?
But I think the problem is it's because of this such a lack of support around home births and things, and there's so much fear about the system, that's what's led people to do the free birth, go down the free birth route. But so yeah, I think there's an increase in that now,
Yes.
definitely.
Gosh.
So,
And can I ask you, I don't know if you're allowed to say your opinion, but I see there's very often a correlation with the babies with traumatic birth or requiring instrumentation or
yeah,
requiring induction.
yeah,
And I know that they say if you go over 42 weeks, you must be induced. And a lot of the mums I speak to say, I really didn't want to be induced. I knew I didn't feel ready, my baby didn't feel ready. I just knew, but because I went over 42 weeks, I had to be induced. Do you have any feelings on that?
I think the first thing is the wording that had to be.
Yeah.
They don't have to be. That's the first thing. It's like, know your rights.
Mm.
They advise it because that's what their hospital protocol and guidelines are. But who's to say the cut-off point of when a baby is ready? I mean, you get a lot of things said like your placenta will fail and your baby will die and things like that. I mean, really, what mother would not then think, oh, I best have an induction.
Mm.
When actually, when you look at the actual statistics, there's a higher percentage that won't happen
Okay.
than that will happen. So they don't give the real truth in the risks and things like that. It's just a lot of coercion, I think, that goes on around that. So for me, it's how you feel. It's not up to me to say you don't have to or you should. It's up to me to have that conversation with the couple and say, it's entirely up to you. You don't have to go down that route. If you don't feel ready for that, then there's things you can be doing. You're monitoring your baby's movements, your gut instinct. A lot of the time, no mother would want to harm themselves or their baby. So if they've got a gut instinct that says, actually, I think this feels right, then that's fine. Go with that induction. But if there's something telling you that this induction doesn't feel right, then certainly question it a little bit more, even keep delaying it by a couple of days at a time just to see how things are, and then try and get your own oxytocin flowing, and see how things are. Because again, the stress and pressure of being told you've got to do this, you've got to do that, then it's not setting you up in the right frame of mind or physically to be able to relax enough to get everything started. And the due date is purely an estimation, and sometimes things can be wrong, like there's a lot of women that said, I'm sure my due date isn't what they're saying it is. They're probably right. It probably isn't right then. Again, it's about, we've got to trust our gut instinct a lot more than we think, and just weigh up the pros and cons, I think.
I think that's, again, what's so helpful of having a doula support then, because like you said, they might not say you have to have an induction, but they tell you there's a significant risk of your placenta failing.
Yeah.
And that's all you hear, and you freeze and you have your panic response.
Yeah.
And instead of then just going, like you would do something that's not so emotionally evoking, you would grab your phone and look it up and see, and then you might find actually there's a higher percentage of that not happening than there is of it happening. But because it is such an emotionally charged situation, you don't do that. So I think having a voice of reason, someone who's been through this so many times and who actually has a lot of that information at their fingertips, is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I mean, the induction rates are through the roof. It is ridiculous how it's like, it's saying to women that, women's thought process of that after, well, I'm can't do this. I need to have an induction because I can't do this. And that's not the way we want to be thinking when we're going into what should be the most amazing, precious time in our lives. It's like the way you feel forced into doing it, or you go to a midwife appointment, they'll say, well, I'll book you in for an induction. I'm like, hang on a minute.
Yes.
Where's the questioning in that? Where's the conversation that these are your options?
Yeah.
It's very rare that they say these are your options. And like midwives will say, no, we do. Well, I did 18 months of training as a midwife, and I went through the 18 months back in 2021. Like COVID had hit. I thought, what can I do while we're bored and we've got nothing to do with COVID? I went and did an access course. I got into uni, and while I was there, I just couldn't bear the coercion. I couldn't bear the way women were being spoke to. And I just thought, I know I could be a different midwife once I've qualified, but then I saw the midwives that I would like to be being victimised. And I just thought, this is not for me. So I've seen firsthand that is what is said to women. They are told, we will book you in for such and such a date, or we will just do this, or we will just do that. And there is no conversation. There is no, well, these are your options. There's a risk of this, but there's actually a bigger chance that it'll all be okay. None of those conversations, and never are they asked, how do you feel?
No.
What feels right for you? And that is what is missing massively, I think.
Gosh. And I think just that question, how do you feel? can change a person's journey hugely.
Absolutely. And it's not difficult,
Yeah.
you know.
For a while, with all the parents that I deal with, I started wondering if the synostosine drip or drug that they give to cause the induction actually made labor trickier, made it slower, or it suddenly came too quickly and therefore it was more painful and there was more, problems with it. But I wonder if it's simply being told that you have to have an induction, you're not prepared for that. It's an extra medical step on your journey, or as you say, you've been told you can't do it, therefore we're going to take over now. And that
Yeah.
just automatically makes a mum panic and be nervous, and
Mm.
obviously that has a massive knock-on effect on the body.
Yeah, and I think that's just the beginning of the cascade of intervention then, because the induction process does take a toll on a woman's body. It is artificial, so it does bring contractions on thick and fast, particularly when they've got the drip. The pessary, not so much when they're just at the beginning, but that can take days.
Yeah.
I've known women be in hospital for 5 days having that process. They're away from their family, they're in a ward with other women. It's not a nice environment to be in, being prodded and poked all the time. And then when the drip goes in, it's so thick and fast, but not very productive. So you're having the sensations of really strong contractions, but if baby's not ready and cervix isn't quite ready, then they're going to be, it's not going to be very productive. So that's when women tend to think, I can't cope with this any longer. It's taking far too long. The pain is far too intense. And that can then lead to all the other cascade of interventions, which have then more of a risk of needing the next stage. So it might be that they'll need an epidural, but then that's still not very effective. So then it'll be down perhaps an emergency C-section because baby's not coping very well anymore. So the cascade of interventions from having an induction, where to me it just shows that mom and baby weren't quite ready.
Yeah. Gosh.
If all is well and baby is well, agree to go and get extra monitoring to make sure baby's okay. That type of thing. That's another thing you can do instead of going down the induction route. Say, well, I will come and be monitored,
Okay.
and you can keep an eye on baby's heart rate and things like that,
Yeah.
every so often. So
That's really helpful. Yeah.
mm,
Gosh. So tell us, Emma, about you have a number of other services. So you have the virtual and the face-to-face doula services, but I see you also have a number of courses and webinars. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
I'm just starting to tweak all my services and just bring them all together a little bit more, so there's a bit more of a flow to them. But starting from the beginning, I expect on a Monday morning I do a free virtual coffee morning from 9:30 till 10:30, and that's for expectant moms and new moms to just all get together, and I'm there. Sometimes I might get a guest speaker come in and have a chat about different things, but it's basically just a safe space for the beginning of the week to start the week off feeling supported, and somewhere to chat with like-minded people. There might be questions that they want to ask. Sometimes they might not want to say anything, they just might want to sit back and listen, and that's absolutely fine. And I say that's a come as you are. It doesn't matter if you're still in your pajamas, it's absolutely fine. You can have your cameras off if you don't feel comfortable, but just have some support there so that you're not alone. So that's one of the services that I do. And then there's group sessions that I do, which like preparing your birth partner. So if you you don't want full doula support, there's workshops, 2-hour workshops where it's up to 10 couples, and it's really getting to understand how you can support your partner in birth and how to communicate your needs and wants and wishes from the mom's point of view, so that they can go in to the birth situation feeling more prepared, more able to support their partner and advocate for them. So that's if people don't want the full doula packages, then they've got that support there. And understanding your baby's needs, that's another workshop. So bringing home baby. So that's something that I like to do with couples, like perhaps towards the end of pregnancy, because there's been so much preparation for the birth itself. Then all of a sudden people bring home their baby and like, oh, what do I do now? So it's in a gentle format, in the way that I trained as a baby calm practitioner. So it's thinking about things from the baby's perspective as well. So getting couples to think about what their world was like or is like on the inside, and how to then support that transition from womb to world in a calm and gentle way, and help to pick up on any cues that you might recognise to see if they're hungry, if they just need a cuddle, and different calming and tips and things like that, as well as practical tips for when baby's born and you bring them home, just even things like nappy changing and dressing and bathing, all that type of thing. So you've got more confidence to bring them home. And do one-to-one sessions as well on virtually, so it can be like antenatal courses, so a 5-week course antenatally. So again, if somebody didn't want that full-on doula package where there's somebody with them, or for the birth support, they're getting prepared for the birth together with the antenatal course, and one-to-one sessions as well to do birth preparation and birth planning together, so they can discuss their needs. So sometimes they, like, if they've done the birth partner workshop, they might then go on to do the birth preference planning workshop as a one-to-one, so that they can really tailor it to suit their needs and wishes.
Okay. Gosh, I'm just wishing I could go back in a time machine and
Yeah.
do it all over again. Gosh, and again, I thought I knew so much because I worked with babies, but this is totally different. You know, having a baby and going through all of this, is nothing can prepare you for that, unless I think you sit with someone who's been through that nitty gritty of it all, and to just kind of walk you through the pressure points and the touch points. So yeah. It's quite a hard
it's
to have.
But it's like people will say like that, you know, oh well, you get all the like reasons why people don't hire a doula, or they don't think about hiring a doula, or even going down birth prep, and it might be that they haven't got the time, or they haven't got the finances, or all these different things. And I think it's just what you value.
Yes.
It's like you get about 9 months pregnancy, so I would use as much of that time as possible, but it's never too late, but as much of that time as possible to prepare. And I always compare it to a wedding. There's people out there that spend thousands and thousands on a wedding day, which is for other people mainly. Yes, you're getting married, but you're entertaining your guests and all this, that, and the other, and you could spend thousands. Now, that's an investment that people expect, whether that's due to commercialism or what, but people, it's like, oh yeah, it's fine spending £30,000 on a wedding, £40,000 on a wedding, but to spend anything like some of my services, like the birth partner workshop, £47,
oh gosh,
to full on doula support to just under £3,000. It can be done in payment plans, you know, that type of thing. And I just think this is a day that will stay with you forever. Yes, you remember your wedding day, but there's parts of wedding day that I can't remember. It went by in a flash. Your birth, however it unfolds, will stay with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So it is vital and so important that you invest in that and prepare instead of going with the flow, I think. And that's not just from a sales point of view, it is from a I care about you point of view, because it really does stay with you, and you want it to be memorable for all the right reasons. You don't want it to be memorable because you didn't prepare and it was the most traumatic experience of your life, because that is hard to live with. That's why there's a lot of postnatal depression and PTSD from birth and all that side of thing. And that goes both ways. It's the couple. It's not just the woman who experiences like that, like we said before. So I think it's so important to get yourself prepared for this most amazing day or couple of days, you know, in your life. And they're all so different. I've got 3 girls, as you mentioned at the beginning, and each one of those births and labours and the children themselves are all completely different. So it's not something that you only have to do once and you've got it with you for life. Like each time you have a baby, get that support, go through it again. What did you pick up last time that you want to do differently this time? How can you go about that? What would need to change? So it's about opening up each time and going down as a completely brand new journey.
Yeah. And you know, earlier you told this beautiful birthing story of the couple who were so calm and she breathed out her baby. And I thought to myself, if birth can be like that, what did she do that was different? What is the difference there? And I think a huge part of it must be fear and stress and panic, and because I think we can deal with huge amounts of pain when it's for childbirth, you know, actual physical pain, because it's part of the process. I think it's the fear of what's happening to my body, what's going wrong, is something going wrong with the baby, it's unknown. And I just, like, I hear the way you speak, and I think if someone was there putting those words, you say this amazing thing that's going to happen to you, this memorable, this beautiful, but that's not how we get told it. You know, we get told it so differently. And I think if we hear your voice enough times saying that, then you change your perception of what it can be. And we should be.
And it's interesting because the woman who breathes her baby out, I've had a conversation with her not so long ago because she's going to be a guest speaker for me on one of my things that I do. And she said to me that she had no doubt in herself because her mom had no doubt in her ability. Her mom spoke about birth and everything in such a positive way, which just goes to show how what we hear is what we believe. And it's how we perceive things. So if we perceive things, it's a bit like with hypnobirthing and things like that. It's the way it works. If you cut your finger, for example, but you don't know you've cut your finger, it doesn't hurt until you see the blood. As an example. So if you think birth is going to be excruciatingly painful and it's going to be the most awful thing in the world, I'm never going to cope, then that's likely how it will be. So it is about retraining how you feel about that. And that's why with things like hypnobirthing, they don't use a contraction, they use a surge, and they use a sensation instead of pain and things like that. So it's about retraining your brain, getting yourself to get into practicing to get into that relaxed state. And there are times, particularly during transition, where you're almost ready to push, that it all goes out the window. I remember when I was at home, I was just like, I can't do this anymore, just get me to hospital. And if I was at hospital, I don't want to be here anymore, just get me home. And all panic sets in for a few moments, and then you can go back to the calm again. Some people in transition just have a complete stop. Everything stops and everything pauses. And it's like, oh, what's going on? I thought I was ready to have a baby. And it's like a rest and be thankful stage. But it's retraining how we think and how we see things. And there's a lot of talk at the moment about One Born Every Minute coming back on the TV, and like the doula world's like, oh my gosh, you know, because they only show the drama. They show what people like, what's good for them. We are, as a nation, we do tend to like watch the dramatic things, or, you know,
of course,
but actually it isn't like that. And I've seen it so many times where it's so calm, so peaceful. Not always go to plan, but still so empowering and so, you know, such an amazing moment for the women and their partners.
And I guess for us as mothers of girls, it's important then that we also use our language when we talk about these things from when they're little. So,
Yeah.
because I think for my daughter, particularly given that I had to go and have an elective cesarean section, I think my language, I'm going to have a little think about that and just how I talk to her about it so that she doesn't approach that time in her life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah. And move in forward a few years' time, who knows, you might be her doula.
Well, you've certainly made me think, oh, it must be a wonderful, incredible thing. God.
It is. It's such a privilege and an honour to be part of. And I think there was a time where I took it for granted, like, oh no, everyone can do this. It's just like, it's something as a woman that you naturally are able to do. But when I speak to people, they're like, oh my gosh, I couldn't do that. And I'm like, but it's such a privilege and an honour to be by someone's side.
Yeah, sounds absolutely amazing. I just wanted to ask you also to tell us, you've got a miscarriage meeting as well?
Yes, yeah, that's every month because I suffered 2 miscarriages, and I thought to myself during the time, they were both horrific. It was awful. One of them was around 9 weeks, the other one was around 11 weeks. So the sort of things that people would say, well, at least they weren't viable, or, you are 1 in 4, it happens all the time. It's okay, you can try again. I've got 2 daughters at that point, so it was between the second and third. But you've got 2, that's fine. All these things were just not what you wanted to hear at the time. And I remember going into the scanning department because I'd been bleeding. There's no separate area. I mean, some hospitals are trying to do that now, but there's no separate area. So you're in there with people that have either got nice big bumps and they're not far off, they're perhaps at their 20-week scan or having a growth scan. There's this one time I was in there and there was a young girl and I felt sorry for her. She had got pregnant and hadn't wanted to get pregnant, and she was very vocal about the fact that I don't even want this baby and all this. And I'm there thinking, I'm desperate for this baby and this is horrific. Why am I in this room with these people? And then the second time round, they put me in what was like a cupboard, a store cupboard, in there. Oh, just wait in there and we'll get to you, because it was out of hours. We'll get round to see you in a moment. And it was just awful. And I just thought, these poor women that are suffering this every single day and being made to feel like they're just a 1 in 4, it's just not okay. So every month, it's just a couple of hours in the evening. Again, it's free of charge, and it's just a place for people to come together and share their experiences if they wish, just listen so they feel not alone in their experiences. Some people have gone on, I've known some people, they've had like 7 miscarriages, one after another, really struggling to get pregnant. And you feel so attached to that baby. If you want that baby, as soon as you find out you're pregnant, you feel like a mom. Well, I certainly did. I felt like a mom. I felt like I was nurturing something, and it's just like, well, I've had 2 already. Why is this happening to me? And it's just having someone to listen to you and support you, and just where you can have a cry if you need to, have a moan and a rant if you need to, get things off your chest, and just to be there to support people, really.
That's a fantastic service. It's something I've been thinking about. I didn't know what kind of format, but something I wanted to document or look at. I haven't shared it on my podcast, but I've lived through that. And a lot of people do. And as much as you say, you're 1 in 4, whatever, but it happens a lot. It doesn't make you feel better that it happens a lot.
No.
But I had nowhere to go with it.
No.
And Yeah, so I'll probably see you there.
Yeah,
One of your meetings, I'd love to. I think it sounds like
yeah,
a phenomenal service.
yeah. I think it's a needed service. I think
Very
it
much,
really is.
very much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Well, Emma, thank you so, so much for coming. It's been incredibly helpful. And I think for my audience who are mums of little babies, a lot of them will be having more babies. And
Yeah.
some really helpful tips you gave there. But also, you've got so many incredible resources. So, yeah, I'm really excited to share that with my audience and
Oh,
all those links in. And I think I might be using your resources myself and seeing you there.
oh,
Yeah, thank you so, so much. It's been,
oh, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely to chat with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Emma.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a wonderful conversation with Emma Inglefield from By Your Side Doula. Her links are all in the show notes, so please do get in touch with her if you find that any of her services could be of value to you. I'm certainly, as I said many times in the interview, wishing I had had a doula for preparing myself to have my little girl, and certainly might be using some of her other services she has. So with that, I would like to wish you all the very best and of course all the best for your baby.